We shall now have the next keynote speaker, Ms Junaidah, who is currently a senior specialist in CCE at the Student Development Curriculum Division 1, and is involved in the development, design, and review of CCE. She's also involved in teacher professional development in CCE. Let's welcome Ms. Junaidah.
Thank you, Prof. Hyrone, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So the question we are exploring together today is, what kind of citizens do we want for Singapore? So when considering the process of nurturing citizens in the context of the school, we need to explore some, oh sorry, I forgot to share my screen. Murphy's Law. So in the context of the school, we need to explore some important factors, namely our social-political milieu, how to enable student voice, and pedagogical methods we can use to help us develop our students' citizenship dispositions and skills. So before we actually go further, it is important to be aware of the changes affecting our world today. In recent years, and for the next several years to come, there has been and will be an acceleration of existing trends in our political, economic, and social environment. These developments and trends in the global and local context impact our students. Firstly, we can't ignore climate change, shifting global power dynamics, shorter economic cycles, among other forces. These all contribute to greater uncertainties. Additionally, the pandemic has also reshaped these forces. Another consideration is that the internet has democratized access to and control of information. It has also changed the way we take in information. Social media has the potential to create echo chambers. And Singapore has a high internet penetration rate. An Infocom Media Authority or IMDA survey in 2021 shows that 99% of households surveyed say that they have access to the internet. And our youth are increasingly interested in societal and global issues. A National Youth Council survey in 2016 shows that 65% of the youth surveyed were engaging in at least one civic activity within the last 12 months of being surveyed. So in other words, our youth have something to say and they want to be heard. So given the current context, what kind of citizens do you think we need? Can I invite you to share on the Mentimeter? You can also share on the, scan the QR code, or you can access it via the link that I have just dropped into the chat box. So I'll give it a moment before I start to show the answers so that we don't unduly influence one another. So you would see on your screens right now, the kinds of citizens that you are voicing out to that we should have in this day and age, or for the future that is to come. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think nobody can contest that, you know, especially at the heart of it, many of you put in empathetic, concerned, caring, compassionate. I think this world can never do with any less kindness than it already has. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. If I may move along here, I would like to share that what we have shared actually compares to the findings and recommendations of the National Education Review that was done in 2016. In that review, the following key dispositions for citizenship in Singapore may be used to shape the purpose and approach to national education. Firstly, a sense of belonging. To foster these, students need to learn about various perspectives surrounding the issue. With our changing social fabric and continually evolving national identity, us educators and students need to develop a deeper awareness of who we are as Singaporeans and a nation, as well as a shared understanding of the common good for us as a nation. Next is also the sense of reality. It is important for us educators and students to be aware of and understand Singapore's constraints, vulnerabilities, and the contemporary realities that confront us as a country amidst a backdrop of a less predictable world. And a sense of hope, which is about seeing possibilities as a result of meaningful and powerful conversations about the issues. It is critical for our students to continue to have confidence and optimism in Singapore's future and resilience to face the challenges ahead. Well, ultimately, these three dispositions need to result in a citizen who has a will to act. For Singapore to continue to thrive, our young people need to develop a collective resolve and a sense of shared mission to work towards building a Singapore for all. With a strong sense of belonging, reality, hope, and hope, they are more likely to be motivated to be active citizens. So earlier, we briefly examined the local and global context we lived in and the future our students will be growing up into. We know that our students have something to say and they want to be heard. Hence, we need to enable students to voice their thoughts and feelings. The classroom is the best place to start because it is a safe and conducive space for students to begin engaging one another, even in sensitive topics, because these discussions are conducted under our careful guidance and with the necessary facilitation skills. We can guide them in developing their voice and agency, which is the capacity to think and act independently in applying sound values and competencies when making decisions or taking actions. First, we need to avoid short-circuiting the process by zooming in on the correct answer. In this complex world, there is often no single right answer to complex questions or issues. The process of facilitating discussions on such issues should help students grapple with the complexities, learn from one another's insights, and find meaning for themselves. In a diverse and multicultural society like ours, we need to respect the common space and anchor our decision-making processes on shared societal values and the common good. So therefore, perspectives need to be analyzed within the broader social context in mind. We can do this by making space for presenting and understanding the different perspectives on an issue and not just the dominant or widely accepted views. Next, we should encourage students to voice their thoughts, opinions, and even feelings, to create a culture where everyone feels safe to speak up and contribute. We should provide different ways for students to express their views, including those who may not be vociferous. So just now you saw how I did a silent discussion through a Mentimeter poll, and that can be also done in an analog way in the classroom through butchered sheets, whiteboards and stuff. We should also demonstrate active listening and ask probing questions to guide students to arrive at responsible decisions and informed opinions. We could also do this when we have clarity of the objectives of the discussion, so as to ask questions that draw out the desired learning from the students. Besides knowing and clarifying the facts of an issue, it is also important to make human connections. We can do so by telling a relatable story, as this enables us to bring in the human angle, which opens the space for emotional connection and empathy building. So this builds on what Prof. Chu and Prof. Tan Ro has just shared just now as well. This would also help students to see its relevance in our own lives. So when we acknowledge their views, we help students feel included and empowered. Students are also more inclined to contribute to their current and future communities when they felt like their voices mattered and they could make a difference. So what do we need or do we want our students to be able to do? In preparing for the world they will be living in, our students will need to be able to express their own views and perspectives on various issues, practice critical thinking, open their minds and listen from and to other perspectives, as well as apply values and social-emotional competencies in the process. So just sharing here how a page from our pre-university teaching and learning guide looks like, with the key pointers on contemporary issues that will guide our educators. So besides having a voice, students should also be given opportunities to put into action what they believe in. Some of these opportunities is not just in values in action or VIA, learning experiences, but also in co-curricular activities or CCAs, and also being in active peer spotters. All these will help to develop civic purpose and a desire to make a positive difference. Students will understand that we all have a part to play in contributing to the good of others and society, especially in relation to the issues we are passionate about. This is how active citizenship is nurtured in our schools and through learning experiences within and beyond the classroom. So we have looked at learning experiences beyond the classroom. Meanwhile, within the classroom, in CC lessons, discussions on contemporary issues are an important aspect of classroom lessons and student learning experience that help students hone the above mentioned skills. From the National Education Review mentioned earlier, conversations on contemporary issues are proposed as an appropriate platform to nurture the three dispositions. Such contemporary issues are described as current, relevant, and able to surface multiple perspectives. When we do have lesson plans on contemporary issues in the secondary and pre-university CCE curricula, teachers can reference these and adapt these lesson ideas to suit the needs of their students. And when discussing contemporary issues in CCE lessons, the use of the context dimension frame is one of the ways in which students can guide students to explore and evaluate the multiple perspectives, apply critical thinking skills, and reach a state of consensus amidst multiple perspectives, not necessarily to converge on one standard landing point, but to achieve enlightened and understanding. So this approach was developed from a National Institute of Education, or NIE, study on CCE and social studies classrooms from 2016 to 18, and is suitable for use with students from secondary to pre-university. The context dimension frame has 2 scales and 4 quadrants. This frame can be used with many classroom strategies to explore multiple perspectives, such as the line continuum and circle of viewpoints. These strategies naturally allow for teacher facilitators to ask questions and to surface and clarify the different perspectives on an issue that students can be sensitized to views that are different from their own. It is important to note that there is no fixed starting point or sequence of movement across the quadrants. The flow of the questions need to be naturally built on and extend from students' responses. For example, to discuss the topic of common spaces, the purpose of such a discussion would be to sensitize students to the experiences of people within these common spaces and get them to understand the need to practice respect for one another so as to foster a sense of belonging for everyone. So on the horizontal scale, the left side denotes the micro context, which refers to one's personal beliefs and unique sensibilities shaped by one's life experiences and individual, family, or community backgrounds. The right side denotes the macro context, which refers to the broader social political setup, cultural norms, as well as global issues and considerations. On the vertical scale, the bottom end denotes unidimensionality, which refers to commonly stated facts, universal truths, settled issues, and widely held beliefs. The top end denotes multi-dimensionality, which refers to contested issues, open questions, and ongoing debates. Quadrant 1 in the is the unidimensional microcontext, and it represents an individual's personal beliefs, value system, and unique sensibilities as a result of belonging to a certain socioeconomic status, ethnic group, religion, education level, and so on. In this space, an individual reflects on deeply cherished beliefs and assumptions, and the teacher facilitates the sharing and clarification of these views. The teacher uses clarifying questions, withholding judgment to seek understanding, and asks for personal stories and experiences to explain or illustrate the perspective. Conversations in this quadrant are personal and sensitive, but unlikely to be controversial, as it denotes one's own personal uncontested truth. Quadrant 2 is the unidimensional macro context, and it represents the official or dominant narrative, the generally undisputed facts of a matter, as well as desired behaviors that align with the moral, social, and cultural norms of the society. Classroom talk in this quadrant relates to the macro context and is likely to be the least sensitive. Moreover, the focus is on widely accepted facts and settled issues. This space would be the least controversial. So in this quadrant, the teacher may encourage students to distinguish between facts and opinion, use clarifying questions to ensure that facts are understood and presented objectively, facilitate understanding of laws and norms in society. So earlier we gave the example of discussing common spaces. We could start by asking students what they understand about common spaces. We could start within this quadrant 2 on the unidimensional macro context where widely held beliefs are held and examined. We could then visit the unidimensional micro context by asking students to share their experiences when they were the minority in a place or situation and they did not feel like they belong there. Quadrant 3 is the multidimensional macro context, and it represents the problematizing of generally undisputed dominant narratives. By introducing other perspectives based on different worldviews, it is important to note that multidimensionality is a space of potential controversy and contention. However, being far removed from personal truths, classroom discussions situated in this quadrant may not be sensitive in nature. For example, back in our topic of common spaces, Singapore has a law against making disparaging remarks about religion, and offenders may be punished for doing so. However, in some countries, citizens can have freedom of expression and is an absolute right and do not face punishment for making such remarks. A rich discussion will allow for rigorous analysis of different perspectives, and classroom participants can possibly draw conclusions about what works best for a specific context and cultural and national context. Quadrant 4 is the multidimensional micro context, and it represents the problematizing of an individual's personal beliefs. In this space, the individual is encouraged to scrutinize his beliefs and challenge his own assumptions, as well as evaluate the relevance and implications of his or her perspective. The teacher can ask sensitizing questions or introduce counterfactual what-if scenarios, which enable students to think beyond themselves and listen to the perspectives of others. It is through this process that new understandings may emerge. Besides being somewhat controversial, this space is also likely to be the most sensitive because an individual may not be prepared to problematize his or her personal perspective, and may find his or her deeply held beliefs challenged by contesting claims. So in this quadrant, we could invite students to share personal experiences with regard to common spaces. By surfacing stories, students will be sensitized to the emotional impact of how some people treat others when listening to stories shared. We could also ask questions that challenge or affirm underlying assumptions. So how do we conclude such a discussion? It is important to be clear from the beginning the intended outcome of the discussion, so that we can circle back to it when concluding. So for instance, in discussing the topic of common space, the teacher should draw from students' views and experiences to conclude that as Singaporeans, we all feel a sense of belonging when we are treated with respect and compassion, regardless of race, language, religion, or any other aspects of ourselves that make us different from others. So in summary, through dialoguing and asking appropriate, clarifying, sensitizing, and influencing questions, we can intentionally move the discussion across the 4 quadrants by using these 3 facilitation moves. And regardless of our approach, pedagogy, or strategy use, we need to consider the following implications. We need to be clear about our intended outcome, as mentioned, and create a safe space. Some of the ways we could do this is by establishing collaborative norms, making sure that we have positive teacher-student relationships, and we should respond with empathy. We should be aware of broader social context, such as the societal values, family values, and even school rules, the law, and so on. We should also ensure that our topic for discussion, the approaches in dealing with it, is suited to students' age of cognitive, social, and emotional development. And we need to remember that we do not support moral relativism. Relativism is the belief that there are no universal truths or objective standards of right and wrong. But in CCE, we need to influence our students to develop fair-minded opinions informed by facts, the various perspectives of different parties involved, and one's own values-based principles. So while surfacing multiple perspectives is important, it is not the only goal. So as teachers, we must make a stand against opinions that are unjust, cause offense, or hurt people, and explicitly support what is generally considered to be right and good. So sorry I went over my time. Thank you for sharing your time and thoughts with me today.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Junaidah.